There we go. We're away. So, welcome back to the podcast, Jurga. I know you was one of our first ever podcasters, and you're back.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. It's lovely to be back and chatting again.
Oh, good. I think when we spoke last time, you were sunbathing in the middle of lockdown. I think we was having sort of record temperatures in the UK. It's not
That's
quite
right.
now. so I imagine the sort of summer wardrobe's gone away for a while.
Yes, it has. I'm sitting under the weighted blanket at the moment.
Radiator on, slippers on.
Yes.
Okay.
That's called being sensible, doesn't it? Really, when the sun is out, you get the most out of it.
I like sensible is a good word. I like sensible because I'm getting to that sort of granddad in the slippers sort of stage, and I think sensible sounds much better than saying I'm turned into a bit of an old fart.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Wear the originals and just under the blanket. So the reason I thought it'd be really interesting to get you back on is because you recently went through a cleanse and you was talking about it, and it wasn't something I'd been aware of or heard of before, and it was a liver cleanse and a gallbladder cleanse. And we've hear a lot about cleansing the liver and looking after the body and making sure the organs are flushed through, but I'd never thought about the gallbladder. I'd never even really given it even a second thought, which probably you're going to slap my wrist for and say I probably should spend a lot more time thinking about it.
Because to be honest, I only heard about this particular liver and gallbladder cleanse this year. Yes, I knew that looking after the liver is very important because the liver performs so many essential functions in the body. And obviously I've heard of people's gallbladders removed, and they are very much on increase, that surgical procedure. It's just like one of these things now you hear so much, especially in young people as well. My mum had gallbladder removed a few years ago. Then I've heard someone else, and I thought, wow, this is more prevalent than ever actually. And it's one of these like, you've got a rotten tooth, just extract it sort of method. Because actually there is no other way to deal with it once you've reached that stage. And that's what I thought to myself. Once I've heard about this cleanse, I thought, actually, this is a preventative measure.
Well, that's perfect, because you hear a lot of people having organs removed and this taken away, and taking away your appendix and things like appendixes and gallbladders. Until we hear that someone's not got it anymore, we don't think, what is it? What does it do? And what are we missing if it's gone?
Exactly. I mean, I had my appendix removed when I was only 5 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So I had an acute case of appendicitis and was rushed to the hospital with the, ambulance. And that's actually my very first memory from my childhood, sadly. Very clear memory. And I believe that everything that we have in our body, we have it for a purpose. There is a purpose to every single bit. Just because doctors might say to us, oh, well, you will be still fine even if your appendix is removed or even if your gallbladder is removed. Yes, we will not die. Well, my belief is that our optimum functioning of the body will be influenced by that removal of that particular organ. Because I don't think so that nature creates us in a way that something is not relevant in the body.
No, I'd be intent to, while I can't back it up with hard science, I don't know what all the bits do, but I also, in my own brain, I'm thinking, well, it's such a deep subject that do we really know all of it anyway? Look, are we at the point where we go, we understand what it all does, so we know which bits we can get rid of? I think understand it that well anyway, do we?
No, I think they're all interconnected anyway. It's a little bit of a Western medicine thinking that we are just a sum of the parts and bits and bobs. My belief has moved past that now, and I do believe that everything that is in our body is interconnecting and is like a parts in or instruments in a beautiful orchestra. They're part of something, and they all have a vital role to play, and they're all important in one way or another, and they're all interconnected, and only when they're working together, that's when you hear the beautiful symphony playing.
Oh, absolutely. And based on your understanding so far then, what does I think we know the liver better, or we're more aware of it, but in your understanding, what does the liver and the gallbladder actually do for us?
Well, liver actually filters everything that's coming into our body. So once the food is sort of broken down in a stomach into the pulp and into, you know, liquidized sort of thing, it gets filtered through the liver. So whether it's food, whether it's drinks, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drug, everything gets filtered through the liver. Through, you know, when it goes into the bloodstream, then that blood gets filtered through the liver.
That poor liver.
Yeah, the poor liver, exactly. So it has very, very important functions to play. And the same with the gallbladder. Gallbladder obviously stores the bile. Bile is produced in the liver, but then it's stored in a gallbladder, and the bile is released. The main function of that is to deal with the fat digestion. Yeah. So how my understanding of how stones get formed, actually they get formed first in liver.
Oh, wow.
Because liver is the main organ for filtering everything. And with the Western diets, with the things added to our food that is not of natural origin, so our body does not really recognize it, all these additives in our food sometimes get settled in the liver as it gets, you know, it's like a filter getting
Yes.
clogged up. Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm building this mental picture now, this filter that's got all of the crap, shall we say, of the Western diet, because let's be honest about it, it's not always real food, is it, what we're eating?
Oh, no.
You know, when you go through most of the aisles of the supermarket, I know they always say to walk around the outside, don't they, and don't go in the middle. But once you go into the middle of that supermarket and you've got all the packaged foods, it's like, and you read the ingredients, half of it you can't pronounce. You certainly don't know what it actually is. And I guess that's all the stuff that the liver's going, right, no, that stops here. And now I'm building up this mental picture of this almost like a sponge, I suppose, which is just stopping all of the rot getting into your body. And then you're thinking, right, at what point does that sponge actually get cleaned out? Hence,
yeah, exactly.
the idea
Exactly.
of your filter.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just the foods. Remember, it's also the drinks. It's also what gets absorbed through our skin, through our lungs. So it's the air quality, the water quality, our body care product quality, all the air freshness, all the cleaners in our house. They do end up eventually in our bloodstream. People don't really realize that, but all those chemical cocktails that we are getting exposed to every single day, and if you are a woman, then you've got also cosmetics and makeup and hair dyes and everything else on top of, you know, what men don't necessarily use. So just imagine hundreds of chemicals hundreds of chemicals, you know, going through our body year after year, day after day. So
it's frightening. Absolutely.
yeah.
Frightening.
And also then you think as well, you know, with the abundance of food available now 24/7, we don't really get, in a lot of families, we don't get like sit down proper meals only like 2 or 3 times a day. It's people eating ad hoc, you know, 5-6 times per day. So liver is constantly dealing with just the food coming in.
So without such a cleanse, which we'll get to in a minute, how does the liver clean itself? Does it have its own mechanisms for cleaning itself?
Yeah, it does have mechanisms of cleaning itself, because otherwise we would be dead very, very quickly. If our body couldn't detoxify naturally, we would be dead very, very quickly. And the body does its best to detoxify, but over the years, it reaches the limit. And that's why the illnesses start appearing then. Illnesses are only, you know, you've been poisoned, emotionally or physically, you've been poisoned. And that's when the illnesses manifest themselves.
Well, this is one of the challenges of the human body, that it's so good that it masks a lot of the problems. You know, we're all there going, oh, I've been doing it for years, never hurt me, never done me any harm. But like you say, this accumulation can be quite worrying. Now, you say that you only discovered this particular method that you used this year.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, just in summer.
How did you discover it?
I discovered through a course that I'm doing. It's called Quantum Flow. And Quantum Flow, it's it's a course about energy embodiment, but it's built in based on fundamental truths of looking after your body the best you can, because that's your only home in this life. So physically looking after the body, and then doing certain exercises, breath work is involved to really cleanse the body emotionally as well and energetically. So going on a belief that our body is absorbing light, and that's what actually drives us as a life force, is the amount of light and energy that we can absorb from the quantum field or from around us, from the universe.
Oh wow! So when you say absorbing the light, is that through food as well?
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, because food, actually, natural food comes from nature.
Like a solar panel. But partly,
well, that's part of it.
Yeah.
I can tell you, gazing in the morning sunlight, that's exactly what you would do. Yeah.
Well, this is one of the things we had with lockdown. Like we don't really all get out enough, do we? And I know it's definitely...
Nobody's stopping me standing by the window, opening the window and gazing out.
Oh, absolutely not. Like, there's no excuses for it, and I'm not sort of defending. Like, we're not caged in, so to speak. But I do think maybe we don't make it a priority. We don't make it a focus to go out enough, if that makes sense. Like typically, like, and I know I've been in spaces like this personally, where it's like, well, I didn't have a need to go anywhere. So for a couple of days, you realise that you haven't actually left the house. And
yeah, yes.
It's happened. But like you say, when you're a bit more mindful of it, and you think, well, actually, I've got a real need for sunlight. So the fact that I don't have an errand to run, or I should be out there anyway, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's getting that into people's mindset, I suppose, is what I was trying to sort of get to.
I think once you have the understanding and the knowledge of importance of these things, then you start making them your priority. Even if it's just, a minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes of breath work, or a minute of standing by the window and gazing at the sun in the morning when it's coming up, sunrise, little bits, really. That's what it's all about. It's not about 1 hour's meditation every single day. Or do
fine thing.
Sorry?
The chance of that would be a fine thing, wouldn't it? There's not enough hours as it is. Although I think there was a quote by Gandhi, and he did say, "I've got a really busy day today, so I'm going to have to meditate twice as long." It's one of my favorite quotes. Because I fall into the trap of going, well, I haven't got time to do that. But then that quote sort of flips it a bit on its head, doesn't it? It's like, you haven't got time not to do it. Okay.
Yes.
All right, you got me there. So now you've discovered the cleanse, and I think even though you only discovered it this year, you're almost like a veteran of it already. It's not this, you recently went through it, but it wasn't the first time you've been through it. So you're quite familiar with this process. Is it something that needs to be done regularly, or is it something that someone can do annually, or how does it work in terms of getting it into your calendar and your diary?
Yes, that cleanse, that particular one protocol I'm following, is based on a book written by a gentleman called Andreas Moritz, and it's called, the book is called The Amazing Liver Cleanse, a powerful approach to improve your health and vitality. And his suggestion is to do liver cleanses definitely at least once a year as a maintenance. At the beginning, if you do it for the first time, the suggestions are monitor what happens during the cleanse, because we all are individuals, we all are unique, we've made unique lifestyle choices through our lives, therefore we are at a very unique point in our lives with our health. So monitor what happens, but usually when you start at the beginning, you need to do more than one. So this one was my 4th one, and I definitely see the differences, from this time from what it was when I did the first time. So you know, the suggestion is once you see the difference, that is nothing really much coming out, which is sort of visually could be described as stones, then you can take a break and just go on to the maintenance of doing a cleanse once or twice a year. So it's not something that you do again and again and again and again. At the beginning, yes, you will need to do for more than once, more than twice probably. I've seen people where they said, well, I had to do it 5, 6 times. And some people said we had to do it even for more than 6 times. But I said that depends on what your lifestyle choices have been so far. So when I came across it, I looked at the book, I read the article, and then I did the research online. I came across some videos on YouTube which ridiculed this method, and they said, oh, it's only soap pearls coming out because it's obviously juice and oil mixing with your stomach acid, and it forms like soap pearls. But then in the comments under that video, they said, well, why then, when you do this cleanse and again and again, you see less and less of these pearls, you know, stones floating in the toilet? And then I thought, actually, that makes sense. That's a very valid question, which was never answered by the author of that video. And that's what really sort of intrigued me. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly why I wanted it on the podcast as well, because I'm interested, like, but also there is so much conflicting information out there, and it's a case of like, normally you're either speaking to someone who's selling something, you know, and there isn't a sale here. This is pure just information and experience about this is what happened, and this is what we've found out to be true so far. So it's either someone selling something, or it's someone just trying to demystify it, or debunk it, if that makes sense. But it's like, well, why rush to debunk it? Like, find out if it's real first. And that's why I'm always interested in people who've actually experienced it. And you found out about it for a reason, and it's obviously a course that you're studying. You get quite, and I know from our history and the conversations we've had in the past, you know, you take health and wellness very serious, and you know, and you work quite closely with a number of clients in that area. And, you know, I know from your personal values as well, like you touched on the last podcast, just how much you place a value on responsibility for ourselves. You know, no one else is responsible for our health but us. And knowing how much, how serious you are about the responsibility, I know exactly how much you go, the lengths you go to for your own health and wellness, you know, because it's important for you in your career that you are that example, you know, of someone sort of seeking the truth. And that's why I really wanted to sort of deep dive into it in this podcast, because I do worry sometimes that there's some good information out there and people think, oh, I'm going to try and move forwards and make some positive changes in my life. And then the second or third blog post in the search engine below it says, oh, why it's a complete load of crap and you shouldn't touch it. and then all of a sudden they go backwards from trying to make a good decision to going, oh, I don't know if it's worth it, or will it be a mistake, or will I be doing more harm than good, or you can understand how people get confused, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. And then you see, this is where I was, because I decided, obviously, I looked at the book, I looked at the protocol, and then I did search online, and I found totally contradicting information. But I evaluated that information, I read through the comments, and I sat with them, and I thought, does this make sense to me? And then I decided to do it.
Yep.
Because the people who've done the cleanse before, the way they worded they comments as to there always being just the soap pearls coming out, they said, well, why is it getting less and less every time I do it? I drink exactly the same amount of juice and oil during a cleanse, so why is it less then? That doesn't make sense, does it?
Not at all. No, you've referenced these soap pearls, so I'm imagining listeners who've never done the cleanse are thinking, what the heck is he on about with soap pearls? So I don't know how much you can or can't share, but in terms of the process of the cleanse, but I think it's a week-long process.
Well, in the book, it's I've learned the process, I say, through the Quantum Flow certification program. And the guy who runs this program, he did it as a week long, because there is 5 days of preparation, and preparation is based on malic acid, which is found in apple juice or apple cider vinegar, or it can be taken in a capsule form as a powder. Malic acid, when it gets filtered through the liver, softens any stones that might be present in liver or gallbladder. That's the theory. Okay. And I mean, there is a saying, isn't it? Apple a day will keep a doctor away.
Yes.
Now, if you think about that, there must be something behind that. Okay. So, 5 days of malic acid, and also eating lighter meals, cutting down on high fat, high sugar foods, because they are heavy load on the liver. So it's actually making changes in your habits already during those 5 days, concentrating, focusing on good nutrition and good hydration as well. So hydration, it's cutting out or cutting really, really down caffeinated drinks, no alcohol, because alcohol is very, very toxic on liver. Even just a little glass of wine a night is toxic. So you're already preparing liver with a lighter load. So it's already naturally starts a little bit detoxifying anyway, or increases the detoxifying activities. And then on a 6th day, and as you obviously know, we try to do the 6th day of the cleanse on the new moon, where it's a good time for cleanses or doing any fasting. So we do fast, and then at the end of the 6th day in the evening, we drink Epsom salts mixed with water, which have got a purpose of keeping, it sort of speeds up the process of elimination. So magnesium, Epsom salts is magnesium. And magnesium is one of these minerals that many, many people are lacking anyway, because it needs to be in the body present in so many functions that we're never getting enough from the foods.
Yeah, I find I take my magnesium supplement just for bed.
And that relaxes you. Yeah, exactly. So, but it's obviously in a cleanse, there's a bigger amounts of magnesium taken with water to keep the bowels moving. Okay. So it's 2 portions of those, and then we take that cocktail of good quality cold pressed oil. In the book it says olive oil. I actually used flaxseed oil in the last two cleanses, because again, there was a reason why I've changed to flaxseed oil, because I've read another book which mentioned that certain oils are present in certain countries for a reason. So olives don't grow in UK, okay? It's just not a climate for them. Therefore, people living in UK should not rely too much on olive oil and should rely on more homely oils. Flaxseed is a very homely oil. I get it from a farm in UK, okay? Yep. So, and then when you take this big dose of juice and olive oil, because you fasted since lunchtime on a day 6, it stimulates the release of the bile in a really forceful way. That's why once you drink the juice, you have to really quickly lie down and stay still for 20 minutes. So bile is released. Some people say they even hear it when the bile duct opens. I don't actually, I've never heard. But the part of that is as well, once you're lying down, you focus and sort of in a meditative state, you focus your thoughts and energy on the liver, on the bile, and you do like a mini meditation really, energetically, putting all your focus and energy on these 2 organs, and with the intention of releasing them of the load that they might carry unnecessarily through our lifestyle choices through life. And sort of, you know, that helps as well. And then on a day 7 is another couple of portions of the magnesium, again, to keep the bowels moving. And then after that, sort of on day 7, midday, you can start eating light foods. So that's a 7-day process, yes.
Yeah, because my first thought as well, like you mentioned the soap pearls, like normally in my first thought when someone says that is that they're trying to debunk some weird nutrient in a supplement or a power concoction that someone's given you, if that makes sense, and they're trying to debunk that actually it comes out of soap. But everything you've mentioned so far seems like real food. So everything you're talking about ingesting, like apple cider vinegar, apple juice, you know, you stay off the meats and the high fats, and you stay off the sugars, and you just
have a little bit meat. I never said really, you know, go totally vegan during the 5 days, because I'm not vegetarian myself. But my focus is on small amounts of good quality, organically grown, you know, grass-fed meats and lighter meats rather than the dark red meats. So it's lighter foods, as natural as possible, least processed as possible. And on day 6 even, you don't take any supplements at all.
There's almost a fasting day.
Yes, so you can have breakfast or brunch or and even lunch, but you sort of really take out anything that is not natural. And, you know, supplements are not really natural. I know, you know, I take really good quality supplements, but even though they're good quality, there's still something added, isn't it? They don't necessarily come from a broccoli or an apple.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then ultimately that last day, it's mainly the magnesium and the oil, which again is...
Yeah, on a day 6, yeah. And on a day 7, it's a more magnesium and elimination, yes.
So there's no weird and wonderful proprietary formulas off the shelf.
No.
So there's nothing to debunk, there's nothing to question, there's no weird and wonderful special
no
in there, if that makes sense. It's just real food items.
Yes, exactly. And especially like with magnesium salts, you know, they have to be food grade with nothing added to them. When it comes to the oil, it has to be organic, cold pressed, not, you know, nothing, again, messed about with it. With the juice, I've done a couple of times where I juice fresh oranges and fresh lemons at home, and I've used that juice. This time I bought, it was a shop bought grapefruit juice, but it's not from concentrate. So it's not freshly squeezed, but it was from a chiller cabinet, pure juice, not from concentrate. So you are encouraged to really upgrade everything that's possible, you know, better foods, cleaner water. So use the filtered water during a cleanse, or even bottled water. I know bottled water is not ideal, so filtered water is better, really. Yeah.
So even if it was a placebo, just having a week of no toxins going in would be a great start for most of us.
Point, yeah, it's like hoaxing people gently into a week of changing habits, really. Yes, it is. That's
quite a big shift for the body in 7 days. So is it almost like a food reintroduction program on day 8, or is it just go back to eating normally?
On day 7, I mean, it's very strange. I observed myself that, you know, I think for lots of people that fasting 24 hours sounds like a mission impossible, you know, but the body gets really actually in tune with that. The body thanks you. I wasn't hungry at all, and my focus was very, very clear and sharp. I felt lighter, because if we think you're giving, and I encourage as well during this week, I encourage people to explore the 16-8-hour window, sort of like eating pattern each and every day, to get people used to their fasting for slightly longer periods of time, so that the final fast on day 6 is not so dramatic. It's more psychological. People think, I won't be eating for 24 hours. That's not a big issue. Your body is designed actually not to eat for longer periods of time, because those fasting times, they are the times that your liver thinks, thank goodness I've got a break from food and I can do some proper cleansing and detoxing. That's when the liver does the cleansing and detoxing. That's why eating late in the evening is really a no-no. Is no-no.
Does it, if you only eat once a day, does it matter when that meal is?
No. As long, well, I wouldn't eat just before bedtime. I really wouldn't. I've always encouraged people to be done with the evening meal by 8 o'clock, really, because majority of people would go to bed, say at 11 o'clock or so, and that gives 3-hour window for the food to be digested, so that when you go to sleep, actually, there is not so much digestion processes going on anymore. It's still some digestion going on, but not the first heavy stages of digestion. And then other processes like repair and rejuvenation and cleansing can take place during the night.
It's interesting actually, because that's been one of my biggest wins from remote working and lockdown, because typically when I was working in London, I found I wouldn't actually get home till around about 7 o'clock, and the children had already eaten then, and then you'd rush upstairs at 7, do the bedtime routine. By then it was 8 o'clock, and then about 7:30 you think, oh, what shall I have for dinner? And that used to be part of the routine, because I wasn't home till 7, and then as soon as you get home at 7 o'clock, it's straight into the routine, and you can't really knock up dinner while you're trying to put a bath on and put the kids in bed. But I'm finding now that with remote working and lockdown, I have dinner at 5:30 now with the children.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
It's absolutely fantastic. But I'd never have had an opportunity to eat at 5:30.
And that's the price we pay for our on-the-go lifestyle. Sadly, we're actually compromising our own health, which is very sad.
It's true. And you mentioned, I suppose, intermittent fasting, and I've always assumed, and again, it's probably from something I've read somewhere, that it's easier for boys than girls. And I think I've heard or read literature which sort of suggests that the ladies' cycle means that different weeks of the month their requirements are different and blah blah blah, and they often struggle. And for guys, apparently it's a lot easier, but I don't know if that's fact or fiction, or if I've got that wrong.
Yes, there obviously there are things to take on board with the female monthly cycles. Yes, definitely. But I think in majority of the cases it's more mental as well. And some ladies might use it as an excuse. I've never really noticed if I want to do something, I just do it.
Yeah. I actually find it really easy, intermittent fasting. One of the hardest things at first to get past was not actually how hungry I was, but it was to break an old-fashioned belief which is gone. It's not part of me anymore, but like I used to have the belief that breakfast was the most important meal of the day.
It is.
But I don't.
But I tell you, Dean, breakfast means breaking fast.
Yeah.
Where does it say you have to break the fast at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock? It isn't. When you break the fast, it is important what you break it with. If you break it with Kellogg's, I don't think so that's a good start.
No.
Break your fast at any time in the morning with natural foods. And it's very true. It is the most important meal of the day, because you're eating for the day of activities. What you eat at night, actually, before you go to bed, you don't do much activity in the night, in the last 2-3 hours of your day. Most people will settle down on a sofa and watch TV. Okay, so how much energy do you need for that? So it is very true that breakfast is very important.
I guess I always think of, and again, it's all in your head, isn't it? But it's almost like, well, when's it best to fill up the car? In the morning or the afternoon? Well, the petrol tank's the petrol tank, right? And when you eat, all you're doing is filling up the glycogen stores of the muscles. And if you've depleted your glycogen during the day and you replenish at night, then when you get up in the morning, you're fully charged. I mean, you don't need anything, right? You're fully stocked up.
Yes, but remember, I believe that when we sleep, we use energy, but not as much as when we're physically active during the day. That's what I'm saying. For me, it makes sense that the first meal of the day is more important than your last meal in a day.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
because the energy usage is higher when you are awake, physically active during the day. At
Yeah.
night, if you think, you know, your brain switches off, and brain uses a lot of energy. Yeah, the conscious mind uses a lot of energy, but that actually goes to sleep. Your breathing becomes very shallow. Okay, so you're using less energy for that. Your muscles are not really moving unless you're dreaming vividly and you're running in your sleep. Okay, and in some parts you become even paralyzed when you're dreaming. Actually, your body makes you paralyzed, so you don't live out your dreams and fall out of bed and fall out a window. Okay, when you're flying somewhere. So for me, in the nighttime, we use much less energy. We use energy in a different, for different purposes. Is much more energy used for cleansing your brain, repairing any damaged tissues, stuff like that. So it's physiologically very, very important, absolutely essential activities, but they don't require that much energy in comparison to what we use when our brain is active during the day.
That's interesting, because I find for me breakfast is take it or leave it. But I only really have breakfast personally as if I need a boost. So, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, you know, when I was younger, I used to have more manual jobs. You know, you'd be landscaping, gardening, so you physically needed energy. But I don't need that same amount just to tap away at my keyboard, you know. and you know, a lot of us are office desk jockeys, and I feel sometimes like the research and all the information on nutrition, a lot of it was done on athletes. So they take like a professional rugby player and go, oh, his performance would be terrible if he didn't have breakfast. Well, yes. I mean, he's got like 6 hours of strenuous physical activity ahead of him, and I'm just going to be like a desk jockey. Do I need that much? I don't think so. You know.
You need less, but your brain still needs a good amount of energy, and especially hydration. So
Oh,
actually drinking water and herbal non-caffeinated teas is very, very important for the brain activity. So for us who are sitting at home doing research and doing much more mental work, yes, we're using less energy because our muscles are not moving, because muscles are very metabolically active tissue. They require a lot of energy, but so does the brain. Not to the same extent, but
yeah. Maybe my brain just doesn't do a lot.
it does. I'm sure it does.
That's a different question.
You try not drinking any water for a day, and you'll see what it's like.
Oh no, drinking water all the time now. I
Yeah.
went through a phase where you know, we were drinking a gallon a day of filtered water, and then I think I can't remember the doctor it was, but he said do it for 30 days and then just stop on day 31. He said you won't be able to. And
No, you
it's
won't
right.
be.
You know, so
Yeah.
I did the gallon of water a day, and then on you know, the day 31, it's like just have a go at stopping. He says I haven't got to convince you anymore. Just stop, but you can't. You like you have to have
This
that water.
craving it. Yeah,
Yeah,
your body gives very clear signals that, hang on a second, we were doing so well. What's happened?
yeah. But I find a gallon, and it's easy to get a gallon of water in. And that's another good thing about working remotely as well, because while you get a gallon of water in, you know, you can never be too far away from the toilet because it can run through you by lunchtime. But it's still much better to be hydrated, so it's a win.
It is absolute, and as you know, hydration is important, as I mentioned, for proper brain, optimal brain function, for our focus and attention. But it's just as important for cleansing. So for liver, kidneys, proper function. You don't want to overdo it because too much of good stuff can be still bad. So you know, with hydration, people still have to be sensible. You know, people say, oh, I might as well drink 10 liters. Well, no, because you'll become ill with 10 liters. Okay. But it's being sensible and realizing that 60-70% of our cells is water.
Yep.
Inside. Yeah, our brain needs water. Kidneys cannot function and liver cannot function properly if there's not enough fluid in the body. That's why I've got my cup of tea.
And another statistic I read, and again, I don't know if it's actually true, but I read a statistic that the body tries to replace all the water within it every 6 weeks. And it kind of makes sense, but I don't know if that's accurate, but I remember reading that and thinking about how much water would you have to drink to replace like your whole body in 6 weeks? Because there's a lot of water in the body. I remember.
So yeah, it's probably true. I haven't heard of that, but you know, I know that there is a saying, you are what you eat and what you don't excrete, and that's very, very true, because everything we take in food wise, from obviously foods, drinks, what we breathe in, what we put on our skin becomes us, because like digestive lining renews itself every 72 hours. Skin replaces itself totally, completely, roughly every 28 days.
Oh, wow.
Yes, bones
grow
actually.
younger.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Well, if you have a scar, I've done these experiments, you know, I had a scar, and if you keep applying, for example, aloe vera jelly on a fresh scar, you know, when you have a fresh, like a scratch, yeah, not on old scars, but on sort of fresh ones. If you keep applying, for example, aloe vera jelly, you have to keep applying it, and within 20, you know, well, several days, you won't see that scar, because the new tissue grows from underneath, and then grows beautiful new skin cells.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so even our brain regenerates itself, even our bones regenerate, but it takes longer. I think for bones, I've read it takes about 10 years or something to regenerate and to regrow. Every single cell gets you know, changed for. So it is very much true. Yeah.
Wow. So that's the importance of good nutrition. It's
Yeah.
you grow yourself younger.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you apply also obviously the mental stimulation and beliefs in your body's capacities and innate abilities to heal itself, to repair itself. You know, some people call it placebo effect. I call it energy healing. Is one and the same thing, actually. Different description.
Placebo works, I'll take it.
Well, it does. It does.
Exactly, no,
Only if you believe it. If you don't believe it, then it won't work.
That's so it's not you see it when you believe it. You believe it when you see it. It's you see it when you believe it.
No, you don't have to see. It's not necessarily you will be able everything to see, because our sight is only one of our 5 senses. Okay, we can't see the whole spectrum of light with the eyes, but it does not mean the spectrum we don't see does not exist. Okay,
that's a deep one.
Yeah, like dogs, cats. If you think about dogs, cats, birds, you know, they see different spectrum on the light spectrum from us. Yeah, like dogs hearing, or even take hearing as another of the 5 senses. Yeah, it does not mean that we can't, as humans, we don't experience it, we don't have that capability, that it does not exist.
Yeah, and it's one of the weaknesses of the human form, I guess, that without further investigation, most of our vision is what creates our experience, if that makes sense, if we don't investigate further. But like you say, there's a lot more to it than that. Well, we're getting to that point where we could go off on all manner of tangents, and I know we have done many a time.
Yeah, it's topic for another podcast, maybe.
But the key part there was look after your liver and look after your gallbladder. And
yes,
and seriously sort of consider giving it a cleanse, either using some of the ideas you shared today or getting people to do their own research, really, and really giving it some serious thought.
At least do the research, and even if once you read through the research and the information, you think, oh, I'm not sure, that sounds very, very drastic, there's still steps that people can take even without doing the full flush. So you can still do the 7 days and, you know, take the malic acid for the 5 days, upgrade your nutrition, eat the lighter meals, maybe look for eating smaller portions of meat, and including more vegetables in your diet. Start looking around you. What do you use in your home? You know, what body care products do you use? What cleaners do you use? And just become aware that we absorb that, and see how can you upgrade them? How can you actually reduce the toxic load coming in first? Because it's about reduction of the toxic load coming in, and then giving a chance for your liver and kidneys and lungs to do the cleansing work that they very much able to do when given chance. And that's when intermittent fasting comes in. Give the chance, give the periods free of food and digestion for those organs to do the cleansing work properly. Because if they're overloaded with food every 2 hours, they don't have a chance to do deeper cleansing work by themselves, whether you do the flush or you don't do the flush.
Yeah, that's one of the attractive things for sort of fasting to me, because it just gives it a break, gives the insulin a break, gives the body a break, and it just gets a chance.
Exactly, and it resets that. I mean, like that 16-hour fasting several times a week or every day possibly is a beautiful thing, because it gives the chance for cleanse and also hormonal reset. So it's like pressing that button on your computer, reset.
There's another big topic there, but we best not get onto that straight away. We'll be here all day. So for everyone listening, hopefully they've heard of you before anyway because of our previous podcast, but if they hadn't heard of you before, it's pretty clear by now that you are a health and wellness coach. You're a specialist in this area. So how can people follow you further or get to know more about your work?
But the easiest way to find me is on Facebook at the moment, because my website is undergoing the refurbishment, so to say.
Soon.
Yeah, so on Facebook, I have a page that's called JP Wellness and Therapies with Jurga, because I am also a mind mediation therapist. So I do share articles there. I do share little nuggets of knowledge. I'm also on Instagram under the same name. So that's the best way to find me. And obviously my contact details are online anyway. So my phone number is online. My email is can be found online. If people prefer those methods of contact, that's fine with me.
Excellent. Well, we'll make sure all the links are in the notes as well, so that people can link to it, and at the very least keep following your work, because that's how I found out about the liver cleanse and the gallbladder cleanse, you know, as well as many other things that you've educated me on over the years. So
you're very welcome.
But thanks again for coming on. It's always very informative, and you touched on the sort of hormonal reset then, so I'm tempted to arrange another time we can go into that one, because I know that's a massive topic.
It's a massive topic, yeah, for men and women.
But it's important. It's really, really seriously important as well. But yeah, thanks again. Have a great day. And,
thank you for having me.
Very soon.
To your health.
To health. There's a stop recording button here somewhere. There we go.